That joke isn't funny anymore. Available on Amazon and everywhere. Hey guys, welcome back to the Lou Perez Podcast. I'm your host, Lou Perez, and today I am joined by Ryan Walker. You may know him from Twitter as at cooking_it_keto. Cooking It Keto, Ryan Walker. Ryan, thanks for joining me today.
Hey man, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for those who might not follow you on Twitter, I think what stands out the most is that you managed to take the most gorgeous videos possible of steak and eggs. It's decadent. I feel like there's like an orgy going on that I want to be a part of, but I don't know who I need to pay to be a part of it. And I'm speaking as a guy. My father is a butcher, so I grew up with meat my whole life. Yeah. But you're able to do something very special. So can you talk a little bit about steak and eggs?
Yeah, so steak and eggs, that's my niche. That's my bloodline, my lifeline. Got into cooking, and I haven't been cooking that long, to be honest, but just started ripping through these steak and egg dishes, and it's a lot more than just steak and eggs. It's like nutritious, the most nutrient dense food available to us. It's highly demonized, and there's all this propaganda going on since like the 60s, 70s about, steak, eggs, cholesterol, all this dietary BS. But then I just love to eat it. I love making it 1,000 different ways. It's the cornerstone of my diet, and it's a dish. I'm not a professional chef, but I am the best steak and egg cook there ever was.
And with that, so much of what you do, it looks like you're doing it in is it a cast iron?
Oh yeah. When I first started cooking, like I said, it's only been a few years for me. Had all these non-sticks and an air fryer, which I still use a little bit, maybe once in a while, but all these weird ways to cooking your food. And then once you get into like the health, wellness, and you start looking into all these forever chemicals and different stuff, it's like there's only a couple ways you should be cooking your food: stainless steel, cast iron, open fire on the grill. That's it. Smoker. But most of my cooks of the steaks are on the cast iron, or soon they're going to be on the Argentinian. I'm almost done building that sucker. So
what is it? What is an Argentinian? My dad's from Argentina. So what is that? What separates that from what you would normally see?
Yeah, so it's like a open fire grill where you're building your fire, you rake your coals into place, and then the whole grill grate, if you will, has a mechanism where lowers and raises depending on what you're cooking, what temp you want it at. So you could drop it down to sear something and then lift it up to kind of cook it slower, and you have all that natural smoke. Good stuff. It's an awesome way to cook. It's very very intimate.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things that I guess like Argentinians are notorious for is burning their meat, like cooking it like well done. Like growing up, that's all we did. Everything was well done. We would go to a restaurant, and my dad would order well done but juicy, which I don't even know what the hell that means right now. So like my whole life, I was used to having like well done meat. So like even like I was I guess a spoiled kid growing up. Like we would have like filet mignon like sometimes multiple times a week. And it would be burnt, and I wouldn't know.
Wait.
Yeah, go for it.
So you have the char on the outside, but you're saying the inside was also like gray, like cooked through.
Yeah, yeah, man. Like you look, I'm like, here I'm looking back at it because it was only I think when I got into like maybe like my 20s, like my mid 20s, when I started getting like, hey, look, can I order it medium? What happens if I order it medium rare? And like now I'm into medium rare. Oh, but yeah, and then looking back, I'm like, here you have a filet mignon, it ends up looking like a hockey puck. and we were, and we were eating it. So I don't know if things have changed, but from my pops, it was always well done.
Really? I mean, this is news to me. I follow some pretty experienced Argentinian grillers. I've never seen the well done method. I will say this though. I mean, well done is definitely not what I like. I mean, if you come to my tasting, you're not getting a well done steak, that's for sure. But I mean, it's edible. It's like I've enjoyed some. Like, definitely would rather it be the medium rare. But I've had some medium steaks, some borderline well done steaks that aren't completely horrible. So,
well,
better than tofu.
Oh yeah. Anything is better. Yeah. One of my good friends, he got married outside of Florence in Italy, and one of the excursions that we did was we went to, I think it's this famous butcher restaurant tour in Italy, and they're all about meat. And one of the warnings that you guys, like, you can't order, like, oh, I want my meat medium, I want my, anything like that. It's just as is. And it's almost like it's rare, like real rare. Yeah. So by the time we were like doing like that trip, I forget how many days we were in of just eating just insanely great food in Italy. And then we sort of had like a moment, eating this stuff where it's like, okay, I guess we're like Italian cavemen or something like that. Because it was like, I mean, it looked like it was as close to like, still like beating as you could possibly get. And I never got into that as much. I wish I remember the guy's name. I think there's like a Netflix episode on him.
Yeah, I've had some rares, the rare steak that I've enjoyed, but I definitely prefer that medium rare, even sometimes medium. But I'm definitely not a raw steak enjoyer. But my perspective on the ordering your steak has completely switched. I used to, before I got into cooking and stuff, I used to be like, you're the customer. If you want a well done steak, they cook you a well done steak. Like, that's it. And then as I started cooking, and now I'm going to be opening my little tasting menu in a couple weeks, you ain't ordering no well done steak here, man. Like, that not happening. So my perspective on that is a little changed. I kind of give a little more respects to the chefs if they're a little hard line on, we're not serving any well done steaks.
I respect that, because even when I go to a restaurant, and if it's something like venison that I'm ordering, I always go like, give it to me the way the chef wants to give it to me. It's like there's a reason why you got you trust the professionals in that in that respect. Do you have a favorite cut? Like, what's your favorite cut steak?
I like them all, but obviously, if you look at my page, I'll name three in particular. One is a hanger steak. That's a butcher's cut. They call it the butcher's cut for a reason. It's not a big cut on a cow, but it is an amazing, juicy, lesser known cut of steak. But that's probably my number one. Number two, I'll give a shout out to the short rib, because braised short ribs are just melt in your mouth. I just cooked some up yesterday. Maybe that's why they're on my head. But and then number three is the steak that I eat the most of. Partially financial reasons, but even more than that, I've just gotten so good at cooking it that I'll put it up against the restaurant's filet any day of the week. The average restaurant, not like, some high-end steakhouse, and that's a London broil. It's London broil. Super lean. It's almost like a poor man's redneck cut of meat that, it's what I grew up eating. And I've just cooked so much of it that I've just gotten so good at cooking this thing that it comes out freaking perfect every single time. It's absolutely delicious. And as long as you slice it right against the grain and you get a proper rest, it's like top-notch meat right there. And it's super lean. So, you're getting your protein numbers in there, rest it with some butter, and your aces.
Yeah. And you mentioned, like price point, and, it's something where, again, like growing up in the home of a butcher, where my dad is getting, wholesale, right? Those prices, and that's what he's bringing home. He's butchering his, the cuts that we're eating. I never realized just how fucking expensive beef is. And now I go into the supermarket and I'm like, $18.99 for a what? For a pound. And you're looking, and just like, doing that math there. And that's like doing, I guess, kind of industrial meat, it's sort of, the factory, farming stuff. And if you want to get, I guess, like, grass fed or that sort of thing, then you need to go, up another notch. So where do you get your meat?
So I do have like an awesome butcher that I go to in Spring Lake, Dutch Hill Farm. He gets like all these like exotic cuts, Wagyu. I get all my like pork products from there because generally speaking, I'm really big into regenerative agriculture. I like to source all my meat products as much as I can afford from like, ethically farmed places. But as far as health and just strictly health wise, it's a lot more important to source your properly source your pork and your chicken products than it is your beef products. I prefer well-sourced beef products, just like more so, environmental reasons, like cruelty to the animals. But ruminants are magical creatures. They got multiple stomachs. So, some like toxins and PUFAs that'll stay in a pork or chicken fat that they get through their diet and through their environment. A ruminant, a cow, that level of toxins won't stay in their fat, just because they got multiple stomachs. And, like I said, they're magical creatures. So as far as like pork and chicken, I try to get it all from that butcher. I'm a big sausage guy. I love my sausages. So he does all these specialty.
I saw yesterday. I think it was yesterday. You posted was it a pork and cheddar sausage? I think it was.
Oh yeah. That's his garlic cheddar. Yeah, it's good. It's freaking delicious.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you and I we're both in Jersey, and we won't mention where we are in Jersey, and we'll keep people guessing. Because we got to protect ourselves. But
yeah, right.
I think one of the great things about Jersey that a lot of people just don't know is just the amount of farms that we have.
It's crazy. I mean, in people's defense, and I've said this before, I mean, most people that come into Jersey come like New York City to MetLife Stadium, and you're in like an industrial wasteland. You know what I mean? It's gross. But if you actually like travel the rest of the state, we're the Garden State for a reason. You go down south, up north. I mean, the farmland, the soil is perfect for so many different crops. It's really a beautiful place. But between the population and where people are at, when they're traveling to Jersey by the airports and shit, they get a really weird perspective on what Jersey is.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought about. I'm from New York, so Jersey was always, stupidly, it was like, oh, New Jersey, and then I met my wife. It wasn't an arranged marriage. We weren't married yet when we met. I met my wife, and she brought me back to her, hometown, and I was like, places like this exist? Like this is so wild. Yeah. So yeah, and I think it's something, too. I wonder just like the economics of a farm, because farming is just such a difficult thing. It's like there's so many variables that you're dealing with. And then you have like these small farms that are competing with, obviously, larger, industrial stuff. So I don't know have you ever done any farming or tried anything like that?
So like the tasting menu I'm doing, my future restaurant, like the whole idea is farm to table. I only live on like a couple acres right now. So I got chickens, I own chickens, I got a nice big garden. So the menu is going to correlate with what's ready for picking down there. But I have never done any like large scale animal agriculture farming. But it's once I get the tasting menu out of the backyard, it's going to be on a farm. That's my whole deal. The steak and the egg, farm to table. But farmers have a huge issue, and it's from everything from like government regulation to like these large corporations like Monsanto. I mean, they'll sue some farmer for a seed blowing into their crop and landing in their field. Like it's absurd when you see like all the jumps and hoops that farmers have to go through. I'm not gonna, when I have it, it's gonna be like a restaurant base. So like and it's going to all be like regenerative agriculture stuff. So I'm looking into a little niche there. But when you go and you're just trying to farm, crop, and make a living, it's extremely difficult.
Yeah, I think recently Thomas Massie, who's a congressman from Kentucky, he's going to be challenging. I think there are certain rules. I don't know if it's FDA stuff, but it like hinders what a farmer is able to do with, like, how a farmer is able to sell his meat. Like a lot of farms, something like they're not. It's sort of like a car dealership in a way. Like there's some rules out there where like car dealerships can't, or car manufacturers can't sell directly to customers. It's like a similar thing with meat. And Thomas Massey's like he lives on a farm off the grid in Kentucky, and wants to change that so where like farmers can sell directly to to consumers, which I think
those are the processing facilities. There's like it's like it's you have a couple companies that own the whole game, and all the people that are raising these animals are forced to use these processing facilities, and that just like amplifies the price and price control. And then it's also like they're trying to inject the meat with more and more chemicals, vaccines, all this shit. And it's horrible. But the way to solve that is definitely less regulation. So I'm with Massie 100% there.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about the tasting, because it's a little early. I haven't eaten yet. I guess I do a form of intermittent fasting where I stop eating at 8 p.m. and I don't have my first bite until around 10 a.m. And it's been working for me. I think it's been working great. But you've been talking tasting menus and food, so I'm getting a little hungry. So yeah, how did that come about? This whole thing.
Well, the steak and the egg, that's my future restaurant. It's been building in me. I've just been thinking about it nonstop for over a year. And I was working in construction, and I started to build this huge outdoor kitchen. It's got a nice little seating area and everything right at my house. And then I went out to film MasterChef, came back, and right now I'm in the process of finishing construction on it. I'm like a couple weeks out, and it's basically going to be, legally speaking, it's a food club. This is not a restaurant. So New Jersey, don't come after me. It's a food club. All right. But I'm just going to be hosting some tastings here where you have a specific menu. It's going to be like 6-7 courses, just pre-planned dishes by me, and very intimate, only a few people, family, friends, people I know from social media. So had a lot of people reach out already, so I'm super stoked to get started. And I love cooking food, I love eating food, but I love like making food for other people. It's awesome. I mean, for like me to make something, it's like a mixture of art and construction. You're building it, and then you present it to somebody, and they get to experience that dish. It's like you get to live inside a painting for a little bit. You know what I mean? It's magical. I really like it. I can't wait to start having people come and start ripping these steaks dishes.
Yeah, man, that sounds awesome. And yeah, it's like anytime that I go to a restaurant, for the first time, I'm always like praying that it's amazing. It's like, I don't know if there are people who go out because they want to be miserable or like find an excuse to just hate a place.
Yeah.
But every time I go out, like I'm always just I'm rooting for the place, you know.
Oh yeah.
And in the area that I'm in Jersey, there's been a number of times we've gone out, and I've just been so disappointed. Where I'm like, I want to like take the owner aside and just say, I want you to succeed. Like I want to be dreaming about coming back to this place every week, you know. But you know, some people just don't have it, and I don't know what it is. I mean, you mentioned you know, MasterChef, and you know, we'll talk a little bit about that. But like, I used to be a huge fan of like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, where he would go around to like all these failing restaurants and stuff, and it's like every episode it was like something's missing. It's the passion that's missing? So you don't have the passion. But then sometimes I wonder, is it just like people just don't know what good food tastes like? I don't know what so.
It's weird, man. It's weird. I mean, when it comes down to it, that passion thing rings true, because I mean, I watched those shows before, and they got like, you know, people get into it for the wrong reasons. They think it's going to be like, you know, a jackpot money thing, or the restaurant gets handed down or something. And if somebody's not into it and doesn't care, they're gonna see that slip away. I mean, even if they start good and then go bad. I mean, you look at some of those shows, there's like old rotten meat sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
The place is disgusting. You know, it's microwaving like every meal. It's horrible. I just love food, and I love cooking it for people. So there's no way I could ever be associated with anything like that. I take far too much pride in, like, you know, the dishes I make, the food I prepare, to ever be involved in that kind of scenario. But I could see how it happens. I mean, you get in there and you look at the restaurant, it's just a job, and you start cutting corners and trying to, and you know, there's a lot of different agencies and health stuff that I'm sure financially doesn't help you out. But yeah, it's a shame to have places like that. I don't eat out as too often, just because of dietary things, like avoiding seed oils and PUFAs. But when I do eat out, I make sure that place is good, because I better enjoy it.
What's a PUFA? What is that?
Polyunsaturated fatty acids. It's like you take saturated fat that's been like demonized, and we're told our whole lives that this is like unhealthy and avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they want you eating polyunsaturated fatty acids that are actually unhealthy in the ratio that they're telling you to eat it. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you should have zero, but you know, a majority of the fat in your diet should be saturated fat. And like all these like oils, like canola oil, vegetable oil, rapeseed, soybean, these things are all toxic to humans. And they've been sold as like a healthier alternative. But unfortunately, because of costs, there's like almost zero. There's a couple restaurants trying to do it, but there's almost zero places you could go out to eat and get something fried that's not like drenched in canola oil or vegetable oil.
There was a guy that I saw, he shared a meme on Twitter, where it was a picture of a bottle of canola oil, and he said, "Cons, come and take it." You know, like,
oh my God, man!
Which was such a ridiculous thing. And what's funny is, in the thread, the guy starts talking about how, in moderation, seed oils are okay, but the reality is, you know, you start looking at everything that's in your cupboard right now, everything has seed oils in it. I mean, it's really difficult to do something in moderation when it's everywhere.
Yep. It's difficult to do. And then, I mean, like, if you, like, I shop the perimeter of a grocery store. I'm barely in the aisles unless I'm hitting up the spice section or something, or getting like sugar and shit like that. But you pick up any product, pick up 100 products in the grocery store, like literally 99 or 100 of them are gonna have some kind of seed oil that makes it. Like, you know, sometimes I like some like cookies or candies or stuff. I get all my stuff is like imported from like Italy, and I'm not saying that everything over there is good, but you'll find more and more of, like, you know, they're using cocoa butter instead of canola oil in their little little crackers or candies or stuff. But in the US, I mean, every product's got it. And if you ever, once I fried food and you sit there, I'm filling my fryer with avocado oil, coconut oil, and you realize how much oil is soaked up into your food when you're frying it. Like that bucket of fried chicken, you're eating like a half a cup of canola oil. Like it's absolutely insane. And all these products were developed as like engine lubricants and like way to save money. And it's so crazy that, you have all these major corporations bullshitting, faking studies, and then selling this shit as like a healthy alternative. But I get a little conspiratorial about this because all that shit, not only does it make it unhealthy, not only does it last in your body for years after you consume it, but that fucks up your gut microbiome. And your gut health is your mental health. So then you have pharmaceutical companies that say, oh, you're feeling depressed, let me put you on this, that, and the third. And then it's like a whole compounding effect where, you're just picking the wrong oil can lead to all these issues. And I also think that a lot of the degenerative like diseases, like you have like Alzheimer's, MS, like a whole list of this stuff is all from highly processed food, seed oils, consuming this for years in and out. It's a really horrible situation that we're in.
And you talk about looking in your cupboard. Like I had this big bag of cashews, and I was like, great, cashews are delicious, and I think they're good for you. And then I look at the back of the bag. It's cashews and peanut oil, and it's like you couldn't just throw the cashews in a bag and give it to me. You had to like put this peanut oil lubricant on it. But one thing I'm lucky because like my wife is totally down with changing things up as far as eating, and so we're going to be making a more concerted effort to look at the stuff that we're eating and make sure that that crap isn't in it. And it's something too, like even just put like health benefits aside for a second, like you feel differently when you eat quote unquote cleaner than what with all these additives and preservatives. It's just the reality. You feel better.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like coming from like complete darkness to where I'm at now. I mean, I struggled with like addiction for 10 years. So, I when I got sober, and then I was like, all right, let me get healthy too. And then, I did keto, lost weight, but then I was like, all right, there's more to this health stuff than just carbs. So that's when I got into like, all the oils, the raw dairy, like everything from preservatives to processed food, and just like trying to eat as clean as possible and as like we're supposed to eat. And that's like, people ask me like, have you ever relapsed? You ever think about relapse? I'm like, dude, I am higher now than I could ever imagine being. And it's crazy. It's like when you do some physical fitness, you eat the right foods, it's the way you feel, the way you walk around, the way you interact with people. And this is, sometimes people give me shit because I talk a lot about calcified pineal glands. And some of it, I'm actually saying, yes, your pineal gland's calcified. Some of it's tongue in cheek in that, like, all these foods, they affect the way you feel. They affect the way you think. They affect the way you interact with others. Like when I see like, people going crazy on social media and like you see all these viral clips of people freaking out at protests. It's like, dude, nobody that eats properly and is like, has like a healthy lifestyle could even imagine about acting like in that way or doing that. Like these foods affect you and like who you are as a person.
For the most part, I feel like people who have taken control of, their diet, can take control of their health, are way less likely to sort of, go that route. That at least that's been my, my experience. And just for myself too, like on a day to day, it's like if there's a day when I'm feeling like shit, I sort of do a little detective work, and I'm like, oh, well, yesterday I didn't work out and I ate shit. that makes sense for why I'm not doing
Yep.
well today. And then it's like, oh, the weeks where, I have it all together. It's like, oh, I see, I see the benefits in all sorts of things that I'm doing.
And it's weird. It's weird that it's gotten political. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like I like to think I'm like a traditional liberal, like an old school liberal, which means that currently I am far right Nazi because I don't think you should trust major pharmaceutical companies. I don't think you should go to war around the world. So I'm far right, I guess. But the other thing is that how it's gotten political with like exercise and eating healthy and like going to like the local food down the street and like knowing your farmer, that like that's become conservative, which is just crazy. And correct me if I'm wrong, this guy, hey, cons, come and take it. He's saying conservatives, right?
Yeah, it was cons. Yeah, and I was like, wait, I know a lot of conservatives who are just guzzling that canola oil. Like,
Yeah,
me
too. But it is just strange how like the anti-seed oil movement, I guess, is mostly conservative in someone like that's eyes, just because if you're not with the cult, you're crazy conservative. But it's a shame how like food and health and like has gotten political. And I want everyone to eat right. I want everyone to be healthy. Then we could have actual conversations and like
right. But yeah, you were talking about how everything's been politicized and even food, and it's like it gets to the point. Like I remember seeing headlines about white supremacists are invading farmers markets, and it's like what it's like maybe maybe there are maybe that's the case, but it's sort of like why would you give white supremacists farmers markets? Why would you give these hateful groups like, oh no, those, if you exercise, you're one of those people.
Yep. Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame. And like the body positivity movement and stuff, I mean, that's all like heavily left leaning. And if you ask me, I mean, if you're telling somebody that, hey, don't better yourself, hey, be overweight, be unhealthy, consume this seed oil, you hate that person.
Right.
I mean, I'm telling you, exercise, be the best version of yourself, eat clean diet, like go to the farmer's market, do some yoga, do some stretching, go for a walk. I love you. I want you to be a better version of yourself. And it's just crazy how, I mean, specifically you see this stuff on the left and how unhealthy lifestyles have been like promoted and propped up by the machine. And, this is my conspiracy to side talking. That's all interchanged with big food companies, big pharmaceutical companies. They want you sick, weak, and dependent on the system. I want you strong, healthy, and not giving a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's something, especially when you're talking about food, and also your aspirations of doing your having your food club, doing the tastings, and then possibly moving to a restaurant. It's like you're not going to be giving people a test to enter whether or not they abide by whether they agree with you politically, because it shouldn't be about that. Food should be something that's universal, no matter what you believe. Here's some great delicious stuff for you. And something that I noticed when I was living in Brooklyn, one of the restaurants that my wife used to go to often, they sent out this email talking about how basically they wanted to be good allies for Black Lives Matter, and they were going to check their privilege and do better in the role that they play in systemic racism and white supremacy and all this stuff. And I was just thinking like, why don't you guys just concentrate on making really good food? Because the last time I was there, I was like, everything was over. There was too much salt in it. And it's sort of like, here you are, you're a restaurant and you're neglecting your prime purpose in order to sort of, share this woke boilerplate. And and it's unfortunate. It's like I kind of just want you to be a place where I can go and just get a great meal that my wife and I want to go back to. And it's like they weren't allowing that, just to be it.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, and if you like, it's all like virtue signaling. Like if you're if you're in a city with like a high Black population, I mean, for people in the city, it's really tough because you're surrounded by like cheap, easy, fast foods, like all processed bullshit, and like going to like a high-end grocery store in the city is super expensive. So if you're in the city and you're a restaurant and you actually think Black lives matter, make better food, lower your price point, reach out to people, and like start giving people food that's better for them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many different things you could do besides like your generic little virtue signal. Throw some money away and get your stamp of approval. So hopefully Antifa doesn't bash in your windows.
Right. Or, I mean, they will anyway.
Yeah, probably.
It's a lot easier to bash in a window. I guess I've never done it. I've never tried it before.
I've cracked a couple in my day.
Oh yeah.
I actually uppercutted my car windshield, which sucked replacing it, but I was impressed that from the interior of the car I could get a window crack with the uppercut.
Dude, I was gonna say it's such a guy thing where it's like, you know what, I shouldn't have done that, but damn, that was kind of cool that I was able to do that. You talked a little bit about being sober at 10 years. You said
well, no, I was an addict for 10 years.
You were an addict for 10 years.
Yeah, I've been sober for 5. And then I've been cooking and into like the health wellness full bore for 3. So.
Mm-hmm. And what was your drug of choice or addiction?
So I was a pretty open-minded drug addict, in that I kept all options open. But I mean, I was primarily it was primarily prescription pills, barbiturates, painkillers. I mean, I was a fucking zombie for literally a decade. I don't even, memory wise, like a lot of that time is gray. I mean, I still remember it obviously, but it's like, I was such a different person for so long, but, prescription pills, heroin, coke, I mean, you name it. We were doing it.
Wow. And what was the wake up call?
It's weird, man. I don't know if all addicts have it like this, but like, even at my worst, totaling 4 cars in 1 year, somehow keeping my license, which is wild to think about. But even at my worst, I always had this vision of myself that looks almost exactly like where I'm at right now. So, you're in that state for so long, like literally a decade of living in the gutter, man. And it just builds up. And eventually one day I was like, that's it. I had enough. I lost a job. I was like, I burned so many bridges with friends, family. I mean, everything I did just sucked, man. And I remember thinking to myself one day, like I'm free right now. I'm outside, my dogs, I'm not enjoying life, but whatever. I was like thinking in my head, I was like, all right, if they offered me a bag full of pills and that never ran out, I would let them put me in a jail cell for a year. And I remember just contemplating in my head, like trading my freedom for those drugs. And once I thought about that and then kind of put it into perspective, I was like, fuck, man, you're off the deep end. Like you better make a decision soon, or before it's too late.
Wow. Yeah. I've never done like the painkillers and stuff. So I'm always like it. Can you describe what that feels like to be on pills? Yeah.
Dude, it's like like a full body mind orgasm.
Oh shit.
Like I'm not trying to fucking sell it. Don't do it. It's
You just
not
did.
right.
You just sold it. You just sold it.
Yeah,
Shit.
it's not the right way to go. But dude, those companies make those fucking things, and they know. It's just like with the food. I mean, they got food scientists making that shit to like hack into your evolutionary developed taste bud system, like your craving system. And those pharmaceutical companies, they've fine-tuned those drugs, and then all the hypocrisy and bullshit behind it is, why I'm so distrustful, why I first became so distrustful of pharmaceutical companies, just because I fucking took it personal, man. Like, I'm not saying that I wasn't to blame for what I did, but, just looking back, it's something like, like the Sackler family and, how they promoted these pills and how they sold them and what they did to doctors. But long story short, the feeling is it's hard to describe or compare, but definitely a better one now, though.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing about drugs is that they work. It's like if they didn't work, then people would be wouldn't be so quick.
Except
quick to use it.
SSRIs, they do not work.
Okay. I just got demonetized from.
Oh shit!
all my all of my sponsors are SSRIs. No.
It's crazy though. You fucking put on the news and like literally they are propped up by Big Pharma. Like how many, and people from other countries watch our TV and they're like, wait a minute. Like that was one commercial segment. You just had 7 pharmaceutical advertisements. And it's like something that's illegal in most of the world is just like glorified and is literally our whole mainstream media system is propped up by Big Pharma.
Well, it's wild, like with those commercials, because there's always like a bit where they're like, ask your doctor about, or talk to your doctor. And you would think like, shouldn't it be the other way around? Like, shouldn't your doctor be saying to you like, hey, you know what? I see what you're going through. Here's something that you should actually thinking about, as opposed to like implanting that idea, in the patient's head and then having them go to the, to the doctor about it.
Yeah, it's weird, man. I mean, a lot of people, like to do the blanket statement, like trust your doctor, this and that. I mean, I have a bit of controversial views on that. I think there's more doctors out there than not that are contributing to medical malpractice. I mean, I think when someone comes into your doctor's office and your immediate reaction is to get them on a prescription, one that you have a deal with the rep on, and that's all before you ask them anything about their diet or lifestyle, like that's malpractice to me. That's you're definitely not keeping up with the, what is it, Hippocratic Oath or hypo?
I think it's Hippocratic. Something I tweeted out a couple of weeks ago is just like, the dirty secret about healthcare is that most doctors suck. And it's been my experience. I mean, this, and I had a number of people commenting. It's like any other industry. Like most restaurants suck. Most, anything else that you have. And I had the experience of, recently going for an annual physical with a doctor, and it was the shortest annual physical I've ever had. And, in previous doctors that I've had, it was a lot of conversation, a lot of them asking questions. So, have you been doing this? You doing this? And even just like the whole, the body exam lasting a lot longer. And I asked the doctor, I was like, it was a woman. I was like, are you going to check me for hernia? Are you going to check me, my testicles? And it's, maybe I came on too strong. But for me, that's the norm. You're a guy and your doctor goes and checks. And she said, oh, we normally check only if you feel like something's wrong. It's like, this is my annual physical. Like I might feel fine, but you being a doctor, you might see something there that needs addressing. And then ultimately I went, I got my blood work, and, obviously the blood work is going to tell you a lot more about yourself. But 2 weeks later, I had a call with that same doctor, and I basically like chewed her out on the phone. And I was just like, I was like, I don't know if it was a modesty thing, like you're, a female doctor, but like if it's a modesty thing, then get a male doctor in there.
Yeah.
And I just let her know, like, this is, very unprofessional. I'm not going to be coming back to you. And this is like one of the first times that I actually spoke to a doctor as if like, no, you're running a business here, and I am your customer, and I'm very upset by the way, by the treatment that I got. Now I bet some people listen to this like, oh, this dude was upset that a woman didn't touch his balls. It's like, I'm married. I've been with my wife we're going on, for 10 years. So yeah, every now and then it would be nice to get a different set of hands on my.
Hey, nugget. You paid for the full physical, man.
Exactly. A semi-happy ending. But it's like it's an example too. Like, you really have to be, your own advocate when it comes to this stuff, and not allow, the system to sort of take you wherever the hell it's used to taking people. Because I saw the other people in the waiting room, like older, overweight, obviously, looking for they're on prescriptions and all that. And for so many people, it's like, that's the life that they're going to live. That's what staying alive is healthcare, for them. Like being able to get up out of your seat and walk, that's healthcare. And it's like, that's not the kind of life that I live, and the type of lifestyle that I live either.
Yeah. I mean, our healthcare has become sick care, and people are busy. They got a bunch of shit going on. They're, financially, economy, the jobs, like all this shit. The last thing someone wants to hear is like, listen, they don't want to kill you tomorrow, but they want you to die a slow, profitable death. You know what I mean? But my dad went to the doctor for acid reflux like a couple months ago. And I tried to let his in-house witch doctor do the curing, but he was stubborn. He went to a real doctor. And he goes and I was like, how'd it go? He's like, oh, they want to put me on this medication. So I was like, so what did they ask you? Right. He's like, oh, nothing really, just about the symptoms. And I was like, you went to the doctor for acid reflux and they didn't ask you what your diet was? He said, no. I said, wait a minute. They didn't ask you anything about your diet, your lifestyle, anything, sleep, like what you're drinking, alcohol, cigarettes, nothing. And he's like, no, nothing. So, I mean, that's not a doctor. That is a pharmaceutical salesman. That is somebody making their money, just getting prescriptions out there. And it's horrible. It's horrible what our whole system's become. And then, I mean, I could go on and on about this because then, that pharmaceutical thing is compounding. Everything's connected. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you have somebody on all these pharmaceuticals from like SSRIs to birth control, that all goes into the water system. Now everybody's ingesting this shit. So like it's one small thing, like, doctors not knowing what they're doing. And then, it just compounds into like this big thing that, is a problem for society as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and thankfully, even with, all that going on, there's still, options on the individual level. And obviously, you're an example of that. And, it's sort of like, if you can't do anything, well, you can definitely choose what you put into your body, So like say if you had to give, just sort of like a general, some general advice, on people as far as, what to eat and what not to eat, like where should somebody start? If they have like pretty much like a traditional American diet, what should they look to eliminate, I guess?
I go deep with this stuff, like my account's Cooking It Keto, but I still eat carbs, like, so I get particular with like imported flour, non-GMO, like I get into the weeds with like me personally. But as far as like a general thing for people is that a protein dominant diet, that's meat-based proteins. They're the most bioavailable. Contrary to popular belief, they're not going to destroy the environment. So, you're good there. A meat protein dominant diet is number one. And number two, processed foods, cut them out. I mean, limit them or cut them out completely. And I know it's difficult. Like, you're working, you got a meal prep, and, it's hard and it's time consuming, for somebody with a busy day, but you can get it done quick. And not only is it going to add years to your life, it's going to add life to your years. Like, it's something you're investing in yourself. You want to fucking throw your grandkids up in the air. That's something that, small changes as you're aging. I mean, as you're living, just small changes are going to make such a huge difference when you're older, especially.
Yeah.
Those are the top two, though: protein dominant diet and cutting out processed foods.
Yeah. I mean, even just something like as simple as, like grabbing an apple versus grabbing like, chips or something like that. It's like, it's just right there, it's like a simple, sort of change. So, something I want to talk about. So, you mentioned MasterChef, and on your account, there's a clip of you, serving a meal, to Gordon Ramsay and the other panel. How did that happen? Like, how'd you get, how does one go from construction, addiction, starting to cook, as an amateur cook, and then, getting to that, to that level?
Yeah, it was, it's a wild ride, step by step, but I was very happy to be on the show. Still a little surprised I was on there to begin with. But when I started cooking, I started posting on social media. So my account started to grow, and I kind of was in YouTube University, like learning all these different cultural techniques to cooking, like, learn Italian techniques from Pasquale, then Asian techniques from Sokol's Longest. And then I started to make my own recipes. So that's how my social media kind of started. And one day somebody from MasterChef reached out, and, I'm definitely have some good presentable food. I'll go toe to toe with any home chef in the country, but I also have like a little bit of a redemption arc story. So, they got me on there and didn't pass up on me. I went through the whole audition process, got on the show, and it was awesome to make a steak and eggs dish. Like, that's my dish, steak and eggs. And then I make that for, some of the best chefs, alive. And it was really cool to be able to cook that for Gorda and Joe, the whole crew on there. And then the biggest thing was, when I got that apron, like just sharing that moment with my dad, just it meant the world to me. He, like I said on the show, I mean, he watched his son like slowly kill himself, like literally kill myself in slow motion for 10 years. Like he watched that. So when I got sober and then, started bettering myself and building, it was always like we're tight, we're cool, but we never really hashed it out and kind of put a ribbon on it and like really got into the emotion of what that time period did to him, me, and to have that moment with him and just see his reaction, it was priceless, man. I wouldn't trade the world for it. It was awesome to have, and I really love that.
Yeah, no, that was so cool to watch. And yeah, it's like a lot of like reality shows. They usually, they go for, sometimes they go for the lowest common denominator, and it's nice every now and then to see like, oh, here's like some real positivity that people can get behind. So what was the dish you made? You said steak and eggs. What was it?
Yeah, it was steak and eggs. It was a filet mignon, perfectly cooked, medium rare, and then a samurai egg, which is like kind of my own technique that I developed. That's like cooking eggs is like really, really special to me. It's like all different ways you could prepare it, how delicate they are. But a samurai egg is basically separating the yolks from the whites. A little equal, separate but equal, if you will. So once you get those whites down there, you're cooking them low temperature, and I put some caramelized onions, some Gruyere cheese, a little spice, and then you reintroduce the yolk, kind of tuck it in, fold it over like a present, and flip it over. Let that cook at a low temperature to kind of get the flavors infused with the egg yolk. And then it's presented as this little strange looking square egg on top of your steak with a nice side of avocado to kind of contrast the spiciness and the deep flavor of the egg. And yeah, it was cool, man, to make that dish for Master Chef and it be on national TV was just it was amazing.
That's awesome, man. And I think I have to get out of here so I could actually eat. Because you're not helping in that department.
My bad.
Yeah. So when do you think the food club is going to be up and running?
Yeah, so I'm about 2 weeks out. I got all my inserts in. I'm just finishing up the Argentinian grill. I got to do the facade this week, so I'll be getting my all my mortar on there and just slapping up that tile, and then a little bit of plumbing work, just some temporary sink action, and then we're ready to rock. So I'm looking at about 2 weeks out.
Cool. And where can people get that info? Do you have a site that's built yet, or
no site yet? Just hit me up on social media, follow along. I've been updating with some progress pics, and then once I'm fully done and I do a mock run, that's when I'll make like the big announcement for when I'm starting to put a schedule together for people so I can get hard dates in there. And then so just hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at Cooking It Keto _ in between. And just shoot me a DM or comment on the post. I'll put you on my little list there, and we'll get you over here. It's going to be Michelin star level food or your money back. So can't
awesome.
wait.
I just want everyone to know this is not binding. Ryan is just very excited. No, dude, thank you so much, man. And I wish you the best. And I'd love to make it, to make it down if there's room for me at the chef's table, chef's counter, chef's table.
That's it.
Awesome, man. So everybody, please go check out Ryan's stuff, Cooking It Keto _ between cooking it and _ between it and keto. Sweet.